think I'm gonna cross. I've got a feeling there's gonna be one hell of a elk highway trail in that timber over there. Let's see if I'm right. So chase that herd elk down that steep hill on the other side a couple weeks ago with the video camera. See what's going on over here. See what the hell we're doing. Slide right up. It's not the one we called up, is it? That'd take a while. And this is how you come down. There we go. Back. I didn't spend any time recording any videos in the woods yesterday because I literally did not stop hiking and casting the river. The river rose up
poured rain the night before. This was really high, and it changes up the fish. And an old timer buddy of mine, who's a real seasoned steelhead fisherman, said that it's double, twice as hard to hook steelhead as on a rising river. I didn't know that, but it proved to be true. And then, of course, I get home. He left. Met up with a friend. He left after a few hours, and I decided I wasn't going to quit, which is probably a fault of mine, but I stayed, and I was up at 5 in the morning yesterday, and I got home at 6:30. I didn't get I caught a trout, but and then later on I got home and realized the fish, I didn't think there was any fish in the river. You start thinking, oh no, they're extinct, this is it, there's no steelhead left. And then I was looking at the content earlier this morning, having coffee, and sure enough, the steelhead were at my feet, up in the head of the pool. But at least it's good to know they're still there. So the invention I made worked, but they needed fish. So once the river gets lower, I'll go back and have a look again. Anyway. Oh yeah, quick mention. It's funny, and I'm not trying to start up any kind of an argument or belittling anybody in any way, but I'm just taking note. I was laying in bed last night, still a little on fire from hiking all day long, trying to wind down and going in my inbox and checking emails, and on my suggested feed there was a video of a podcast, a couple past reality TV personalities have some podcast on Sasquatch, and I don't know why I listened to it for about 7 seconds, and it's amazing to me. It just brought the realization to me that there is still a bunch of people out there familiar with this topic who think these beings are animals. The great North American Sasquatch is kind of like, good God, seriously, how many people have these people been ignoring, and many people been ignoring? It's pretty bizarre, isn't it? And I assure you, I think I've said this before, but I assure you, if these people, these forest unknown people, whether they're here full-time or not, is yet to be blatantly shown, but if they were a simple animal, the true great hunters of our time and times before us would have had their teeth hanging off a necklace a long time ago, especially the First Nations hunters in North America. They basically, when they decided to go harvest something, they went and got it. And they didn't have guns, whether it be grizzly bears or whales, right? Right? You got these people who are intimate with the land, living off the land, been here forever, hunted and collected and harvested everything when they decided to. Everything. You know, now if you were, let's just say, you were some characters today who definitely do not have any hunting history, any backcountry hunting or backpacking experience, just reality TV stars, somehow somebody deemed them as experts in this topic and very skilled hunters to go hunt these beings down and get them on film and collect evidence. Right? Now, if you use your common sense, let's just use your common sense in reality. Let's just say that you were 100% convinced there was a wild animal running around the forest of North America on 2 feet, possibly 8 to 10 feet tall. It's an animal. Who are you going to contact to get video evidence, any kind of evidence of these beings? Reality TV characters? Or are you possibly going to contact some absolute skilled, kick-ass skilled hunters, say from a First Nations community in the area you're inquiring about, or even non-First Nations hunters? A hunting guide. Not just me. There is hundreds and hundreds of full-on modern mountain men, you might call them. I know some men and women out there who grew up rural, had a unbelievably successful career guiding for every species of game animal you can come up with for decades. Would you not maybe want to contact them? Nope. We're going to get these other guys who will not admit publicly that these beings aren't animals, and we're going to carry that theme on and use them in front of the camera to keep all of you guessing, right? Maybe I'm babbling, maybe I'm not. I'm probably babbling, but as I said before, my thoughts don't come out of my mouth that smooth at all times. But anyway, I'm just trying to say is with the evidence, the testimonies, even from people here, the people with their testimonies here in this channel, they didn't just come around when this channel did. They've always been, right? These eyewitness accounts have always been. The details, the patterns have always been. Why are these people blatantly ignoring those people and lying to you? I don't get it. But anyway, backpedaling a little bit, the First Nations hunters, I always thought, I gotta make this mention about the hunters, especially the First Nations people. I mean, my God, could you imagine how frickin' the toughness, the determination those people must have had here on the west coast of North America is astonishing. I mean, think about this one. You got to think about as well what they pulled off. Getting back to, if the Sasquatch were an animal, I would bet my life on it. If the Sasquatch were an animal that this group of people are trying to keep you convinced they are, the First Nations people would have their teeth on a necklace ages ago, well before we even got here. Guaranteed. Right? Anyway, on that note, you imagine back in the day, I used to just joke about this when we're out guiding on the water. You know, you see the gray whales going by, or the humpbacks, which are freaking huge, huge animals. Huge. You imagine being the first native community that decided they're going to go out and get one. Right? We're talking people with a cedar tree carved into a canoe, homemade harpoons, homemade ropes, lariats, whatever they got, probably in their bare feet, watching these beasts from shore for how many generations, and then finally one kick-ass, crazy-ass chief goes, "Today is the day we go out and kill one of those whales." Right? Oh my God. You imagine being one of the native community members that wasn't really into that shit. Probably got pissed off when the big chief decided we're going to go kill a grizzly bear today. And then he yells out to the community, you, in the canoe. We're going to go after one of those and we're going to get one. Right? And I used to joke about that with people on the boat, saying, imagine being one of those guys that's like, man, come on, just let me hang out with my chick and get some clams today. Why does he want to do this? I don't want to do that. Why does he want to do this today? No. You know what I mean? It'd be quite comical. But then again, what a sight that must have been to have been back then in the day and witnessed that first native community that decided they're going to go out there in the open ocean, 10-foot swells, 12, whatever they are, in their canoe. No life jackets, no flares, no GPS, no nothing. Just their handmade weapons. We're going to go kill a whale and drag that sucker out of the beach and cook him. Oh. Anyway, there's something to think about when you think about these Sasquatch beings, these forest people, as being a simple animal. Those North American native communities who harvested every frickin' game animal you are aware of today, if they went offshore and got a whale and drug it back and threw it on the beach, they went and got huge grizzly bears, they would have had Sasquatch teeth on necklaces ages ago. But they don't. Right? Anyway. Moving along. Oh, alright, obviously I'm jacked up on my 2 coffees this morning. And we got some important voices to hear. Now, listen to this email. It was titled LEO Perspective. Steve, I've listened to your YouTube page for several years, and I've heard you ask about LEOs and their experiences with what you refer to as SABE. That'll be Law Enforcement Officers, LEO. I've been in law enforcement for going on 43 years and still going. I grew up in Northern California near the Oregon border, not far from Bluff Creek area where Patterson obtained his film of Patty. I grew up with a real interest in the subject and have met a lot of those early Bigfoot researchers. I've also had my experience with the so-called mainstream so-called experts and have learned to avoid them. There are no experts on the subject, and most are charlatans prostituting themselves for a buck and TV time. Agreed. That being said, I grew up in the Northwest, hunting and fishing and camping in areas where most weekend warriors avoided. My dad and I were usually together on these trips, and we had numerous experiences while doing so. We used to hunt in the Blue Mountains, just south of the Washington border, and in the early 80s ran into a forestry worker in that area on several occasions named Paul. Several years later I learned his name was Paul Freeman, and he had been collecting track casts and photos for years. And later the Freeman footage video of a SABE. How amazing is that? No shit. In 1982, while stationed at Fort Richardson, Alaska, in the Army. I was involved in a crazy night of chasing around something very large on the edge of the post in an old warehouse area. Although we never actually saw it, we chased it all over that area while it screamed and howled. I had followed it into some heavy willows near the border of the warehouse district, and when the other MPs caught up to me, we tried to get 2 canine handlers to lead the way down a game trail into the willows. Military canines are well known for being very aggressive and pretty much the assholes of the dog world. Both laid down on the ground whining. There was no way they were going in there without being dragged forcibly. A couple of us proceeded into the willows and down the trail to the fence line, where we found the fence had been torn up and beat down. And that is where we called it a night. And were all called back to the MP station for a debriefing and instructed to keep our mouths shut. Go figure. In 1982, I was living in Wyoming and working for the sheriff's office and had been there since 1983. I was an investigator and was working a case involving some cabin break-ins and vandalisms. I'm sorry for being vague on the department or exact locations, but it is for good reason. In the process of investigating the case, I had occasion to make several print casts in that area and collected other evidence as well. To my knowledge, these items were still in the evidence room when I left the department in 1997. The tracks were at least 2 subjects, one with 17-inch prints, the other with 15.5-inch prints. I followed them away from the cabin area for almost 2 miles, leading into the timber, and although I lost them several times, I was able to pick them back up again with a little searching. Wow, that's something else. They followed a game trail that had something else, meaning that you were able to pick up that trail again after a couple miles. It's not an easy task to do with these people. They followed a game trail that had tracks of other animals, deer, elk, and a couple partial bear tracks. Although I was never officially told to bury the information, but the case was labeled as a suspicious circumstance case, and eventually closed. The damage to the cabins was written off as bear damage, although I had never known a bear to tear doors off and toss them several yards away. In 1993, I was elk hunting in the North Horse Creek area west of Pinedale, Wyoming. My best friend and I had hunted the same area for several years together, and normally spent a couple weeks there at a time. My friend also worked for the sheriff's office and was actually the lead investigator. We had been horseback hunting a particular mountain where we had been successful in the past. We had split up and were traversing around the mountain from opposite directions. It had been several hours since splitting up, and I was setting my horse inside the timber and watching a clearing of about 3 acres on the top of the mountain. There was a main game trail that went through the meadow, and there was an old blown-over tree near the center where we had stopped and had lunch in the past. While setting my horse, I had been listening to a squirrel raising hell uphill from me when my horse's head snapped towards the meadow, and his ears were like radar antennas zooming in on the meadow. I watched, hoping to catch the elk as they moved through the meadow. To my surprise, it was not an elk, but a very large, dark brown to black, hair-covered man. I know I've done this before. I'm going to read that one more time to let it sink in. To my surprise, it was not an elk, but a very large, dark to black hair-covered man. At about 80 yards, there was absolutely no doubt was what I was looking at. It was walking on 2 legs, had long arms, and it was extremely tall, at least 8 feet, even though it was somewhat slumped forward like it was walking into a stiff wind or something. I don't remember being able to see any definition in the face. I don't remember being particularly frightened, but my horse snorted and blew loudly, and it came to a very quick stop and looked my direction. The wind was in my face, but I don't remember smelling anything but horse sweat, and this is probably why it had not winded me right off the bat. It sort of slowly pivoted towards me and then stopped, still stopped, and then turned its hands towards me. It didn't raise its hands, it just turned the palms out towards me. I've heard people talk about mind speak or feeling totally scared shitless or pressure and infrasound, but I got none of that. I got the sense that he was really annoyed at seeing me, or not seeing me until my horse snorted, and I got the impression he was thinking like, holy shit, not another one. Although I was well armed with a 7mm mag and 45 cal pistol, it never really crossed my mind to draw on it. The rifle remained in the scabbard, and pistol stayed in my hip. After about 10 or 15 seconds, it turned back around and proceeded to cross the meadow, the direction it had been headed, and walked away, never looking back at me. When I got back to camp, my friend was there unsaddling and didn't even look up at me coming. There was no doubt in my mind. The Sabe had come from where my friend should have been. I unsaddled my horse, threw them some hay, and my friend was tending the fire by this time. We didn't talk at all for a while, and then I asked if he had seen anything today. He snapped me a dirty look and said, "You know our careers live or die. You know our careers live or die by our credibility." And that was pretty much the end of the conversation, other than small talk while we packed up camp and then left the next morning. When you're expected to investigate and testify in court in major cases, your credibility can make or break the case. Imagine being on the witness stand in a homicide case and the defense attorney asks if you believe or have seen Bigfoot. You either commit perjury or tell the truth, and then lose the jury's confidence. That was the last year we hunted together. We remained good friends until he died a few years ago. Did his experience give him PTSD? Hell, I've been a cop for 43 years. I have plenty of Did this experience give me PTSD? Hell, I've been a cop for 43 years. I have plenty of PTSD. This experience just confirmed to me what I have known since '67 and the Patterson film. They are out there. They're not a freaking monkey, and a shit ton more at home in the wild than we are. I've had many experiences that I can now attribute without a doubt to the Sabe. Am I afraid to go back into the mountains or woods? Nope, not one little bit. When I retire from law enforcement, I might write a book on my experiences. But for now, I'll remain anonymous. That's what you do, Steve. Be safe. Yeah, you too, man. Huge respect to you. Huge. Thank you so much for sending that email in, man. Appreciate it. And on the book thing, start now. Just do it. Okay? Don't say might. You do it. Just do a little bit at a time when you got a chance. Okay? Please. Please do it. I would be so curious to read that book. And there you go. Another first-hand experience of someone seeing a hair-covered man right in front of him, 80 yards. Lifelong law enforcement. A long-time member of the Club of No Return. Right? Anyway. Here's a clip from fishing yesterday. You look at that while I try to find another one here to share. In 1 second. Twice I Have Been is the title of this email. Dear Steve, I'm a 63-year-old man who grew up hunting and fishing and camping, etc. Elk hunting on the Coast Range at a place called Gales Creek, Gales Creek, in the 70s. I spent the night in a hollow stump in a small glade, waiting for the herd to cross the creek and cross up in the glade. Well, as you know all too well, elk in a herd can make almost no sound, or sound like an armored tank division coming through the woods. This herd was of the latter form, and I waited till I was surrounded by the herd, having my recurve bow. I stood slowly, picked a spike bull at 25 yards, easy shot, and he fell soon after a short trot, where I have never had a kill shot, and shot, and he fell soon after a short trot. While I have never had a kill shot and not have the herd blast out of there, they seemed unaware of my shot. And I was in camo suit covered in... Okay, there's no punctuation. Okay, guys, that's where I'm screwing up. Sorry, we'll get through it, though. It sounds like a good story. Let me start that again. Well, I've never had a kill shot and not have the herd blast out of there. They seemed unaware of my shot. I was in a camo suit covered in fauna. So after 10 minutes, I stood to full height and lit a smoke, and of course they smelled it and boogied. I started to dress out my elk when I felt all the hair on my body stand up on end. To make it short, I will say the trees across the hillside shook, making thrashing sounds, and the tree tops were moving violently, yet there was no wind. I grabbed a broad point and started walking away from the elk. Every time I stepped forward, the slope would flush out an animal, or a pounding football seemed to be just ahead of me and above me. I never saw the whole form, but caught sightings of a huge, tall figure keeping ahead of my pace. I started to move faster. It was to no avail. My mind went to survival mode and decided to cut across the creek and go straight up to the highway, pending for my truck. As I got in, a huge rock bounced off the hood. Needless to say, I hit it hard and ran hard all the way home, 45 miles away. Got some brothers and guns and went back to get my spike out. As we got closer, we decided to lock the wheels in 4x4 low and drive straight to the elk. When we got closer, I said, "Load up and I'll get out and walk behind the Jeep CJ5. The elk was gone, minus one ripped off front leg below the knee. My knife was there, as well a blood trail up the hill. The smell was really bad, skunk-like, but worse, like a dead body left in the heat. For a few days, we all felt there was no way a poacher would leave my knife behind, or would they be able to snap off an elk leg like that. Anyway, we left for home, all feeling scared, and in hindsight, I feel like an idiot for not taking 3 30-06 rifles, thinking this... Sorry? In hindsight, I feel like an idiot for taking 3... You might have meant thinking 3 30-06 rifles, taking 3 30-06 rifles, thinking this would work based on what I had seen. But then I had never lost an elk, or not walked one down if wounded, just the way I was raised. Sorry for a long story, but it is just the way I speak. Take care, be safe. Hank the Tank, SEAL Team 2, Class of 79. Wow. Okay, don't worry about the no punctuation, man. It happens all the time. I think that comes from talk to text or something. I don't know. I've never done talk text thing. Anyways, I get it. That's unfortunate and creepier than shit. I haven't lost a game animal. I've had to steal moose back from grizzlies and stuff. Stole moose back from a huge grizzly. Stole an elk back from a grizzly. What else? When I was a kid, I left a buck hidden under a great big piece of thick fir bark, like a massive piece. And I hiked all the way down the mountain to go get my pickup, my first pickup. And I came back, and the bark had been moved. Well, I wedged the deer between a log and a rock. I was just a kid. And put the bark on top of it. And I was in thick timber. And when I drove my truck back up the old deactivated road to the bottom of the hill where the deer was on, I was going to go up there and drag him down the hill to the truck. And he was already dragged up and over the log and laying on the ground on his back. And the heart and liver was ate, and the blood was licked out of his chest. So it was a cat. Obviously, if it was a big hairy being, it would have been gone. But those are the only times I've ever had anything stolen. And I kind of dread the possibility of having one of my game animals stolen, because it's, you know as well as I do, or you hunters out there, it's a huge effort, man. It's a huge effort to go get your game meat for the freezer. It's a lot of money. And it would really suck to have gone through all that effort and then have somebody go pinch it, take it from you, and there's nothing you can do about it, right? Especially a big animal like an elk or a moose. Picked up and carried away would freak the living shit out of anybody. Anybody. That would be absolutely frickin' crazy to witness firsthand. It's crazy to read about it dozens of times too, right? Thanks for sending that in, man. Appreciate it. Welcome to the club of no return, right? Welcome to the club. This one's titled 3 Idaho Sasquatch Experiences. Hi, Steve Jackson here from East Idaho, longtime viewer of your videos from when they were only hunting stories. I've grown up my whole life in the mountains hunting and being around animals, horses, cows, dogs, normal farm life upbringing. I've always been an out-of-the-box thinker from a young age and always felt a connection to animals, horses especially. I've started many young horses from a young age. I always enjoyed connecting to them on a mental level. I've always had sense to know if something was off or different and have the same sense with people too. I never really paid the Sasquatch topic much thought until I was around 18 years old when I had some things start to happen while archery elk hunting. The first odd thing that happened was one rainy September morning hunting elk. We'd gotten up to a big timber canyon that my family has gone into for years. As we were riding our horses in, I noticed trees that were bent over and crossed together, but not broken, and that they were not like this a year before. They were 4 to 6 inch lodgepole pines about 25 feet long. When we got up to the spot where we rest the horses and have a snack, we noticed the woods were quiet. No squirrels, no birds, no bulls bugling, nothing. When we walked over to a big spruce tree where we had sat previous years was a purple balloon deflated and laying on the ground like it had been set there specifically to see. This stumped me and my dad, but my grandfather, who was also with us, just kept casually folded it up and put it in his pocket and didn't say a word. Fast forward to last year's September bow season. My grandfather had shot a raghorn bull by himself, and dusk on the night me and my dad were driving up there to join him hunting the rest of the week. Okay, it's punctuation challenge again, alright you guys? I know, random coincidence, but we'll get it. It being well below freezing at night, so we decided to look for the bull in the morning. My grandfather said he watched the arrow go through and looked like double lungs, and the bull crashed into the timber down below. We got up on the mountain well before daylight and got to where he had shot from by daylight. It was a light rain drizzle, so most of the blood was washed away. We tracked the bull into the timber about 150 yards to a small spring and wallow, and the tracks had ended. My dad and grandfather insisted that he change directions, but I walked another 10 yards or so past the willow, and right there on top of the grass was the same kind of balloon. This time it was a blue one. I showed my grandfather, and he had only frustration on his face and no words. We looked the rest of the day and never had any luck finding the bull. My grandfather did not want to talk about it afterwards. Later that same September, in the middle of the night, on 2 different occasions, I was in my camper alone, and I had knocking on the side of my camper. The first time it happened, I thought for sure it was my brother-in-law, and I got up, looked out the window, and there was nobody. The next night, this happened again, and I knew what it was, and I remained in my bed with my 10 mil by my side. The next encounter I had was the same year. Me and my wife were taking an afternoon ride up the same ridge my grandfather shot the raghorn that we never found. I ride a Mustang that was in the wild till he was 5 years old, and I adopted him from the BLM and trained him. Oh, right on, it's a good story. He's a very in-tune horse with his surroundings. He can feel the other animals and knows they are coming long before he can even hear them. We were riding along, and up above us you could hear a cow making a lot of noise. I didn't really think much of it until we got closer. I could feel the pressure in my head. And as we got closer, my horse got very spooky, and he usually never spooks or anything in the woods. We kept going up the trail till we were about 100 yards from the crown, and my horse would not go another step. He had not done this one time in all the years I've rode him. The wind was straight at our backs, so I know he cannot smell anything. I know he could feel the same thing I was feeling. I've rode this horse past grizzly bears on gut piles and never batted an eye. As we turned around and started back down, a crow flew down to a tree 20 feet above us and let out a deafening screech, and my horse nearly jumped out of his skin. At this time is when the other horse, my old roping horse, started to sense something was wrong too the whole way back to camp. He was really bothered and kept kicking out like something was right behind him. Wow, that's creepy. We made it about a quarter mile from camp and the horses relaxed, just like a normal ride. My wife and I knew what happened that day but didn't want to believe it. Since then I've been back up there on my same horse and had no other encounters. No pressure, no nothing. My last encounter happened last fall. I own a fencing company and was doing a job that a big group of rich people bought a bunch of land in the mountains about an hour from where I live. Most all of this is old growth timber, and we were going around the boundaries and putting a barbed wire fence, cutting trees, and making paths for our equipment to get through. There was one spot on the northwest end of the property where I could feel the pressure. And my guys did not like it, and if they had to be alone in this, did not like it if they had to be alone in this certain area. We always felt watched in this spot. There was a lot of old aspen, spruce, and other trees. There was also really high buckbrush, as we call it. There was an old 50-gallon barrel off to the side of the trail about 10 yards in the brush. I had noticed this about a week before this happened. One morning, me and one guy were driving the four-wheeler up to the equipment, and on top of the hill in the middle of the trail was this 50-gallon barrel sitting upright like it had just been set there. This is about 200 yards from where we had seen it down in the brush. We were positive that nobody else had been there and could even find where this was. There was only tracks from our equipment and nothing else. This same morning I got inside our cat skid steer and with a cab and glass door and windows. And on the inside of the glass door there was about a 6-inch long mark that looked like someone had rubbed their nose on it. When I touched it, it was oily enough to rub in between my fingers, and it would just stay there. Nobody else had been around, and none of the guys had gotten in my machine. This happened again on the same job the last week I was there. I'm not sure if it was a young one just curious or playing around, but I didn't want to find out. I trust my gut instinct and do what it tells me. I won't ever let this control my love for the woods. I will always be in the woods as much as I can. You just have to do what your gut tells you. Thank you, Steve, for a place for people like me to get this stuff up our chests. I think you're a great man. If you're ever in Idaho, maybe we could go on a horse ride with some of this stuff where some of this stuff is going on, or just shoot the shit. Either way, thank you for everything. Jackson from Idaho. Dude, I'd frickin' love to do that. I would love to do that. I don't think Idaho's that far from me either, is it? We'll see. I'd take up that offer in a second. I'd even go just to go hunt and hang out. Or if you want to go trap wolves, I'd be down for that too. Where there's a shit pile of them blowing up the place. But anyway, there you go. Another member of the Club of No Return. Another hunter. You know, previously there's a whole bunch of hunters. There's still piles of hunters out there to laugh at this topic. You know, a friend of mine that sat on the porch, his cabin lifelong hunter guide. You know, we had that conversation about it, and he phoned me the other day telling me there's a few guys in his neighborhood that laughed at him because of it. Whatever is what it is, but laughter's harmless, right? It's just, yeah. Anyways, I'm just trying to make mention that more and more hunters are coming forward with the honest truth. They're not scared anymore, right? Because there's a lot of hunters out there, loggers, A-type men out there that have worked in the woods all their life, never seen a damn thing. You probably believe in UFOs too. That sort of thing going on, right? But the good thing is that more and more hunters are coming forward. Imagine how many hunters that followed my stuff previous to this or knew me before I started doing this. Imagine how many of them just started shaking their head like, what the hell is he doing? When I first started reading, I had one young kid message me on social media, and he told me he was raging, saying, I can't believe what you're doing online. I cannot believe you're making up this BS, and me and myself and many of my friends aren't going to follow you anymore. Poor kid, right? Poor kid. That was his reaction to me telling everybody honestly what I saw, what I didn't ask for. Didn't ask for it. Saw it, didn't ask for it. And I've had an online presence and a name in the hunting guiding industry for years, and I never said shit. For years. If I was looking for attention, I would have done this a long time ago, right? Anyway, babbling today, holy cow. I'm babbling today. I might be sharing some of the footage from yesterday. I videotaped a little bit yesterday. I let the camera run and stuff when I was fishing. I might show some of that, or maybe I am while I'm reading this email. by the way. Now, babbling. Thanks for that email again, man. Thank you very, very, very much. I appreciate that. And make sure you email me back more if something else comes up, alright? Because I'm curious. Okay, I'm going to go one more. And then I'm going to get outside and get going on stuff. This is titled, I Could Touch It. Hi, Steve. You can use my name. Todd Horvath. Don't be afraid of the whore in my name. From South Hill, Virginia, USA. Gotcha, Todd. I thought it was time that I shared my experiences with you and everyone else who is interested. When I was about 4 or 5 years old, around 66 or 67, I remember cop cars racing down our road to a trailer park that was just a little further down the road, because a man heard a noise outside. When he went out to investigate, he saw a dark, hairy creature stand up. It was about 2 feet higher than the air conditioner, sticking out of the side of his trailer. The air conditioner was a good 6 to 6.5 feet high, so I grew up knowing that they exist. When I was about 12, around 74, I was riding my sister's bicycle home from my friend's house at about dusk. I noticed somebody coming out of the woods, crossing my friend's long driveway in front of me, and he or she was about 6 to 6.5 feet tall and very skinny. I felt a great sense of fear, like I've never felt before. My feet froze, and I stopped pedaling. If I wasn't on wheels, I would have just stopped. But as I coasted behind this unknown person, I noticed that he or she never turned to look at me. I thought that was very odd, since my bike makes noise and I was on shell, gravel, and dirt. I cannot describe the person because it was like looking at a dark silhouette. After I got past them, I pedaled as hard and fast as I could to my front gate. Then threw the bike on the ground, threw open the gate, grabbed and opened the front door, and ran inside and locked it. I sat in a chair and didn't say a word to anybody. I never did. I'm 60 years old now, and I've been watching your channel for over a year. And when I was still a young man of 59 years old, I started putting the pieces together from what I was hearing other people say on your channel. One of the things was people have been seeing skinny Sasquatches, and that was a big piece of the puzzle for me. Then after all these years, I remembered something. I could see my house. I could see the white of the gravel and dirt in the driveway, but the person in front of me was all dark. I had to be looking at a Sasquatch with either dark brown or black hair. That even terrifies me more, because as I passed it, I could have stuck my arm out and touched it. That's how close I was. Oof. When I was about 38, I was living in a little place called Neelyville, Missouri. I was going to night school and was on my way home. I would always take the shortcut that was a hilly dirt road that cut through a bunch of cow pastures. On this night, I started up a hill in my van. Felt the same terrified feeling and knew without knowing that on the other side of this hill I was going to see a Sasquatch again. As I got up on top of the hill, I could see this silhouette walking across the road. He stepped over a 3.5 to 4 foot fence without missing a beat. As I passed him, I took off as fast as I could without losing control of my van on the gravel road. I could feel the tires swaying on the gravel. I thought that if I lost control and ended up in a ditch, I would soil my pants. Well, I made it home okay. My mother-in-law was there, and I didn't say a word to anyone. But before I could sit down, she asked me what was wrong. I looked at her and said nothing. She said, "You're as white as a ghost. What's wrong?" So then I said I thought I saw something crossing the road, and it scared me a little. Then she said, "You saw Bigfoot, didn't you?" I just looked at her and said, "I just saw a shadow of something big cross the road." She said, "You know you saw Bigfoot, and I know you saw Bigfoot. You can't just admit it." I said, "Because I'm just not sure what I saw." Now, after watching your channel, all this is starting to come back to me. I've blocked it out for so many years. I guess I should be thanking you that I can talk about it and acknowledge these things actually happen. It does feel like a great weight has been lifted. I love reading that when I hear it from all you people. I don't understand why I would block these things out when I've always known they existed. My brother's seen them. My niece has seen them. A lot of people have seen them. Why is everybody in denial? I'm just glad I couldn't see the whites of their eyes. They may have had to put me in a rubber room. I guess I was lucky. Now I live outside of South Hill, Virginia. About 2 years ago, I found 4 sun-bleached leg bones that looked like deer to me, laying on top of the grass out in the corner of my property. I don't think much about it at the time, but now I think what could have left them there together on top of shortcut grass almost was like a gift. Now about 2 weeks ago, I swear I saw another one out in a cow pasture about 1,000 yards away as I was driving to a friend's house. It was only for a second as the trees got between us, just as I saw it. It was very light brown, but that might be because of how the sun was setting on it. It was a hairy-looking humanoid with no neck or... Sorry. It was a hairy-looking humanoid with no neck or hair-covered neck. I just kept driving as if it was just another cow, but there were no cows in the field. I felt no fear. Maybe because it was so far away. All I did was think about what I had just seen, like it was no big deal. There was rolled hay bales that were close to it, and it had to be at least 3 feet taller. The next day I drove by the same place, and there was nothing there. Steve, I want to thank you for giving people a place to share their experiences, to help them cope with what they've witnessed and not get laughed at. And this is just for you, Steve. I don't want this read because it would cause a huge controversy with your followers. Okay, man. I'll read it. Alright, man. Gotcha. I get it. I totally get it. I'm not sure what I think about that end of it myself yet, but it's coming together eventually. But, man, I appreciate you writing in. Really appreciate it. So many people, right? So many people have seen these beings. So many people are scared to come out and admit it. They're getting laughed at. Whatever. You know what? It's easier to be honest and go with the truth than it is to pretend or lie. Not lying, not bullshitting is a very, very easy existence. You don't have to remember anything, and there's nothing to hide, and you can look people square in the eye and talk to them at all times, right? But anyways, I've been a little bit of a babbler today. I'm gonna get going. I'm gonna get a lot of stuff caught up on. One thing I got to make mention too is one thing I've noticed. If I've ever asked anybody for help here, I get it. It just gets frickin' tossed at me from all directions, and I just have to say how much I appreciate that from all of you kind people out there. When I asked about knowledge, help for electronics in here, dozens and dozens of you have emailed me help, and I absolutely appreciate it. I haven't been able to reply to any because it's just I'm on the fly, and I'm not at that position yet to get it going, because now my next step is to get the internet in here. I have to get that slider cut in there, and then I will go to fine-tuning. The electrician's coming this week, and then it's game on. And then, because if I start diving into the technical end of it right now, it's just going to take up space in my brain because I need to deal with it as I'm doing it. Do you know what I mean? So I'm going to save all that from all of you for when I'm ready to go. So now I know I have the knowledge. That's a big part of my missing puzzle, and you guys delivered that, and I appreciate it big time. I got it, and I will apply that as soon as my electricians are done and I'm ready to go. And I can't wait. I can't wait. What else? I received an email from somebody notifying me of, I don't know, somebody being hateful. Asked me to find them and block them, and copy and paste what they had to say. And you know what? It just goes with the turf. You are not going to be able to escape the eyes and the mouth of angry people on the internet. It's not going to happen. But it is funny. One thing I did notice with what the person shared with me was the common sentences said. It's a weird one. It's not all the time, but it's been a very prominent one from what we might call the opposition, right? Their main complaint about me is he never vets the emails and he believes every single one of them. And that is why they also referred to me as a hoaxer. I've been called a hoaxer. Isn't that kind of weird? But anyway, that is an odd thing for me. I'm not trying to create any controversy or hate. I'm just saying, isn't that a weird characteristic? Isn't that a weird common pattern amongst the very small handful of people who obviously are enthusiasts about this topic, but the hate they have towards me has commonly been, he believes everything he hears and he doesn't vet the emails. Alright, so first off, I've never told anybody what I believe or not, really. When it comes to emails, I give everybody a fair crack of speaking, and what I always say is, take from it what you will or leave it, and it is up to you. It's up to you. You get in touch, in tune with your sixth sense, your intuition, your gut instincts, your own common sense, and you decide for you. That's the key. That's the key to freedom. That's the key to honesty and truth, right? We have to get away from those people that need to control what you hear, what you read, what you believe. They need to control you, right? Who qualifies to vet an email? Who does? The people that are complaining? Okay, well, you go vet the email and you decide for me if I should have heard that email or not. Said no independent, free human mind ever. Right? So there you go. That's my little 2 cents. But anyways, quick note for all you guys out there that are engaged in the hate, just let it slide. I mean, I screwed up the other day and got into it with some idiot online once, and then YouTube didn't post my. YouTube took my comments off because I can have colorful words when I get a little ticked off, and then I just feel ashamed of myself later on for allowing myself to go there. Right? It's a waste of time. So don't worry about it. Don't sweat it, you guys. You see somebody who's planting the hate seed. I know it's hard, but just skip over it. It's easy. Look away. And you know how fast your eyeballs move? That fast. That's how fast you can make the hate disappear. Just look away. Anyway, gonna get ripping. I got a bunch of fishing and outdoor stuff on this SD card. I'm gonna go through that while I'm loading this up, and I have another long email that might take up a whole video session from the other forestry tech from Alberta. And I'm absolutely looking forward to sharing that one with all you guys. I guess that'll probably be tomorrow. Now, thanks again for the help. Be safe. Share my story at howtohunt.com. Get it off your chest and get it shared. It's amazing how many stragglers we got. I wonder how many people are sitting here watching thinking, all right, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna share what I know. Right? Isn't it funny how long it's taking people to finally crack open? It's interesting, isn't it? Anyway, all of you are very, very, very appreciated. All you brave, independent, free people. Brave, strong, kick-ass, independent, free people. So appreciated. I want to keep collecting you. Those are the people I want in my life. I want to be surrounded by you. And I want to hear from you all the time. So, I think I had a few important emails emailed in to be relayed on the Locals and Rumble channel. I'll see if I can't hit that up as well soon. I'll tell you what, I've been working inside the house and I get in trouble for being on the computer so much, doing all this, but it's what it is. One day I'll have a few days straight where I can really get after it and get stuff shared. But anyway, in the meantime, talk shortly. Well, I guess we'll try the yarn that our subscriber from Quinnell sent me again. I really caught one of the first casts of that sucker last time I used it. Let's see what happens.